Welcome to how to host a successful Zoom party. We are going to be working on a phone bank party today specifically. Pretty much it translates over to phone bank or text banking. Either one can be done, but we're going to focus on phone banking today and how to host a Zoom party successfully for phone banking. And I welcome everybody here. And I'm going to share my screen so we can go through. I do have some things to talk about. I first want to ask though, I'm going to put a poll up here. Have you ever hosted in Zoom before? So if you would please respond to the poll. Have you ever hosted in Zoom before? Not just attended a meeting, hosted a meeting in Zoom. Actually been the one running the controls behind the scenes, hosting Zoom. I know a couple people just came in. If you would answer the poll that should be in front of you, please answer that as quickly as possible. Have you ever hosted, done the back end, running a Zoom meeting before? So far, it looks like 63% are no, 38% are yes. Great, 8 of 8, awesome. Thank you for letting me know, that helps. So I know who I am speaking here today. Polls are a great little tool. We're not gonna go over that today, but that is definitely something that can be helpful. As people come in, you can ask questions and have people respond. It can be a very fun little tool. If you're just joining us, if you would please put into the chat your name, pronouns, and organization that you are with.
Where do you go? I'm sorry, where do you go to create a poll?
So if you're hosting, it's actually, there's a little button at the bottom of the screen where you can create a poll. You can also set it up in the back end before you actually run the event.
Okay, thanks.
There's both ways can be done. Great. So yes, and so one of the reasons that every single time you guys come on to a meeting, I'm like, put your name in the chat, tell us where you're from, what your organization is. I'm always asking for that information because that is important for counting numbers later. So we do that for data purposes. I do that because I'm tracking how many of you are from UU congregations, because that's what I'm tracking specifically in most of mine. But it's also so I can get a head count total, because sometimes I don't remember to look at how many people were here in the middle of a meeting. So if I get everybody to write it in, I can at least get an average of what it was. But we do try to remember, and I can actually see, and you might be able to see participants, how many people are on the call, so you can track those numbers. But it's helpful because you can go back to the chat later, and we'll talk about getting the chat later, but you can go back to that later and see who was there and track specifically numbers of what you want to see. So it's really helpful for tracking to have people put their information into the chat. So we're always asking for that. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you know, well, here, let's do a little poll. How many of you, I'm guessing, let's see. Oh, let's share the results of that. I didn't share that. So there you go. Can I create a new poll? I cannot create a new poll while I'm in here. Let me try. Okay, I'm guessing most of you are familiar. Raise your hand, put your little, put a yes in the chat either way. Have you hosted an in-person phone bank or text bank party before? Raise your hand or put yes into the chat, or no. Okay. Lots of no's. All right, have you ever hosted a party in your home with people sitting down around a table having fun? Go ahead and type into the chat, yes or no. That's my figure. This is the same thing. Imagine us sitting around a table, if we were in one room together, and we all have our computers and we all have our phones and we're hanging out. So this is the same kind of situation. So treat it that way. So as your guests come in, hi, welcome, good to see you. Glad you could join us. Be very welcoming, be very, ready to go and ready to have a good time, and make it, friendly. Make it a friendly environment as people come in. I was thinking about this as you guys came in. Do I want to put the slides up so that when they come in, they see the first slide? This is not that kind of thing. When you're having a party, you don't put a slide up and have people come in for the slide. This is not that. This is just people getting together. So you treat it that way on Zoom. You're just coming in, you're saying hi. A lot of you are going to know the people coming in. So welcome them. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. Good job. Good to see you here today. I'm glad you're here. But just be friendly. I mean, I'm a lot more bubbly than a lot of people, so you don't have to be as bubbly as I am. That's just me. But be you, be welcoming, be friendly, and enjoy yourself a little bit, letting people into the call. And do know that when you set up your call, I see that Veronica asked, wouldn't it be noisy? So as people come in, I already had it set up so that everybody's muted when they come into the call. So they have to unmute themselves. So if you have everybody muted coming in, and we're going to talk a little bit about those settings, then you actually don't have as much noise. They'd have to actually technically unmute themselves. And you can ask people, and I do this, if you're not talking, please mute. Do you want to say something? Go ahead and unmute yourself. During the phone bank, everybody's going to be muted. So while you're talking, we're going to talk about that in a bit. So cool. So let's talk about the biggest part of this training today is going to be how to set up your Zoom, how to invite people in, and how to host the Zoom party on your end. That's going to be the biggest part of this today. We will talk about what happens during, we will talk about what happens after, and how to report your numbers after your meeting so that we have a count of what happened during your meeting. So I am gonna share my screen now so that we can go through my slides, which I brought to here. All right. So you want to welcome everybody, introduce yourself. I welcomed you. You introduced yourself in the chat. We got all that piece. All right. What do you need? In advance, make sure that you have these things. You need to have a Zoom account access. So I know I belong to my congregation and we have several Zoom rooms that we have purchased, and I have to get access to that Zoom room. So I have to get information on if I set it up, we have to reserve the room. I get a link, and I also get a host code, which allows me to quote unquote claim host during that time. So it depends on your access. If you have your own account, great, use it. If you don't have your own account, you'll need to get information on how to get in. You do not absolutely have to have a paid account, although I do recommend it. I am hearing that sometimes the free accounts, there are actually kicking people out at 40 minutes if you have more than 3 people on your call, but you can jump right back in. I think it's the same code, so you'd be able to do that. You might want to test that out. So one of the things I always recommend before you do any meeting like this is that you have a few people get together with you to test out the technology so that you know how it works and they can give you feedback as you test it out. So one of the things you might want to test is if you have a free account, is it going to boot you out and can you get back in with the same link? Usually you can get back in with the same link. And you just need to let people know if you're on a free account at the very beginning of the call. Hey, I'm on a free account. We could all get kicked out of here in 40 minutes. Just come back to the same link you were on before at the end of your calling and talking time. But if you have a pro account, it's better. That's the first lowest level. It's $16 with tax per month to have a pro account. I've been known to do it just for a month and then cancel at the end of the month so that I have that access to do it. So the pro account is better because you won't get kicked out and because you have a few extra little features that you can take advantage of. You will also need your computer. I do recommend a full-on computer. This does not work well with a tablet. This does not work well with a phone. So you do need a computer in order to host Zoom. It can work with a phone, but when you're doing what we're doing with so many different things, you're going to need a computer. You're also going to need your cell phone and a headset, ideally a headset for the computer and earbuds for the phone if you can do both. If not for the computer, that's okay. And again, you'll, like we talked about in the trainings for ThruTalk, it's best to have earbuds or a headset to do ThruTalk. I recommend you do what you're asking your people to do. You're also going to want to have handy the links, which I believe I've sent you those links ahead of time. If you did not get them, I'll send them out in the notes today. Afterwards, you will get notes. So these links are handy to have open before you get started. And I'm going to stop. I'm going to do a new share and show you how I typically do that. Where are you? Which screen are you? Okay. Nope, wrong one. The other one. You need to know which ones are your screens. So this is it. This is my screen. So you can see I have my back-end meeting information open as well. But I also have the phone scripts up. Laptop is a computer. Yes, Kathleen, laptop is fine. I have my party checklist up here at the top. I have my ThruTalk open. I have Ohio Votes open. So I have one screen that's all open so I can easily just access whatever I need. I've closed all the other stuff out. So I'm not running a gazillion things. I'm only running what I need on my computer. So I highly recommend that you do that. And you'll also want to have, if you're doing the text banking, which again, we're not focusing on that today, but if you are doing text banking, you will need that outvote code because some people are going to need it. So I have created a nifty little Zoom party planning checklist, which I will send out to you at the end of today. And that, oops, close. You can see that here. So this gives you things that you need to arrange in advance, how to set up your Zoom, how to send your, how to send your invitation, what to do the day before, the day of the event, during the event, and after the event. We're going to go over most of this today, but I do have this available for you so that you can make it easy for yourself in order to quickly and easily make this happen for yourself. Oh, there we go. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Zoom and how we set up Zoom for a successful party. I recommend doing these 4 things, which we're going to walk through, using a waiting room. And here's the thing. Why do I say waiting room? I know a lot of people get kind of annoyed with that wall of white that just says somebody will let you in soon. But the big deal with that is that we're trying to keep our room safe, keep it with people that we know, keep it in our organization, and also make sure, I don't know if you've heard of Zoom bombers, but there is such a thing as Zoom bombers. If you publicize your event publicly, somebody could grab that link and they could show up that you did not invite and they can disrupt your call. I have experienced this. It is not fun. They come in and do mean things. They're usually pretty obvious. So if you have the waiting room on, you can find them. They come in with a name like I am house or just weird, yeah, something that doesn't sound like a normal name, or open underscore door. You know, things like that. They're just trying to get in. And the wall, first of all, stops them from wanting to come in. They can generally be deterred. If you give them a few minutes, they generally leave. So it's like the security sign outside your house. You may not have the security system, but you put it out just to let people know, don't come to this house. It's kind of a similar situation. So having that waiting room on is really important for making sure your party is secure and only the people that you want in it are in it. And you want to, if you can, use registration. You can only do this with the paid account. So again, this is one of those, it's worth it to bump it up to have that registration so that you know who's coming. You can see who's registered. You have to go through an extra step. You can also use something like Eventbrite, which is free. And that would also allow you to take registrations so that you know who to expect. And then also you'll have a list of people. So when your waiting room is there, you know who is expected to come to your call and you know who to let through out of your waiting room. So I do recommend, it's not necessary, required, but it is a nice little feature. Also allows you to know who's coming and follow up with them afterwards should you need to. A host code may be needed. So like I said, if you're borrowing somebody else's Zoom, like your congregation or your organization's Zoom, you might need to get that. And basically when you log in, it'll put you in the room and there's a little button over to the right that says claim host. You click that button, type in the code, and the room is yours. And you want to allow co-hosts. So I'm going to go through a little bit here and show you. So this is the back end of Zoom. So this is when you're setting up your meeting. So you have to go in and click schedule new meeting. And in that screen, you want to make sure that you click that little waiting room button under security. It'll have a passcode, allow the passcode, all of that is for your protection. Click both buttons so you get all that protection. And then further down the page under meeting options, you do not want to enable join before host. Make sure that is unchecked because otherwise they'll be able to come in through without the waiting room. You want everybody to have to go through that waiting room. Okay. All right. Then the next thing you want to do is okay, so that's basically setting it up. You click the button save at the bottom. I did not mean to pause, resume share. Okay. You click the button at the bottom to save and you're pretty well set up. So you can pretty much leave everything else the same. So one of the other things you want to do though is you want to go into the back end. So this means going to zoom.us. So this is going into zoom.us, logging into the backend account. So if you're borrowing the account, you want to make sure that there are certain settings that have been turned on for you so that you can do your Zoom meeting. So when you go into zoom.us, you want to go into settings. And as you can see on the left, in meeting basic, this is where you want to go for your settings. There are a gazillion settings you can do. You want to set the in meeting basic. And you want to make sure that you have chat allowed. I have found that if you click the prevent participants from saving chat, you cannot actually save the chat automatically and you need to save that chat. So again, like I mentioned at the beginning, having that chat to track who's here and what they're doing or where they're from so that you can have your data, you want to make sure you have that unchecked and you have chat allowed. And then you want to click down below auto saving chats. And what that does is it'll save the chat to your computer under documents, Zoom files. And you can go in and pull that whole chat yourself. So these are the settings that are really important. I do recommend that you also have a co-host. If you can have a second person to help you, this is always helpful. Somebody can be monitoring the chat and letting people in while you're getting people set up. It can be really helpful to have that second person who also knows Zoom to be able to work with you. And in your back-end settings, you will need to allow that. So you need to make sure co-host is allowed. Most people who have a Zoom account have co-host allowed because they're co-hosting people all the time. But it's just in case. And if you have a new account, you need to make sure you go into that in meeting basic and set that up so that you have co-host privileges that you can give out. And it is great to have a second person to help you run the meeting. So somebody can be running the chat and letting people in while you're working with people in your meeting. All right. So another thing that you can do once you're in your meeting and you've got it set up and you've started your meeting and you're running and you're working is if you have too many people in your meeting. So sometimes with your co-host, you may need to split off and have two people working with them because sometimes we find that we have too many people and we're having one conversation over here, but somebody else needs to have a different conversation. You can create in the meeting, you can create a breakout rooms. So you could manually select people to go into a breakout room. And manually means you get to pick, I want this person, and this person to go to the room. Or you can just automatically split people up into two or four groups, and they go off into their rooms and work together. This is a handy little feature that I really like using, especially when you have a lot of people or multiple conversations that need to happen. That is not only with a paid account, that is also available with the free account. I double checked that today to make sure. So you can create the room with the breakout room button at the bottom. You choose automatically or manually. And then there's some extra little features here that you can pick and choose from under options. This is you got 4 breakout rooms. You can assign people individually. And then you can move them automatically. One of my favorite features is down here, the countdown or the 60-second countdown and how breakout rooms close at a certain time. So one of the suggestions that I make is that you set a certain time that you're all going to go off and do your phone banking. You say, we're going to do it for 30 minutes. So if people are in breakout rooms doing their phone banking, you can set the timer for 30 minutes, and then it automatically dumps them back into the main room at the end of that 30 minutes. And it'll give them a 60-second countdown. You can set that to whatever you want to set it to. But I really like having that automatically close after a certain time and setting a countdown.
What did you click to get that window to appear?
So once you click breakout rooms and then you click create rooms, this window, and then options at the bottom of that window, the red box here, comes up with these extra features.
So your screen has breakout rooms. My screen doesn't have breakout rooms.
Right. I'm not doing this on my computer right now. These are just screenshots so you can see what it looks like.
And so what is it we're going to do that will give us a screen that says breakout rooms?
So in your Zoom, you see this little breakout rooms at the bottom of the screen?
No.
There's a box at the bottom, not on the, so on my, what I'm sharing with you shows you what it would look like for you. It's not going to look like that for you right now because you're a participant and you're not hosting.
Oh, okay.
So when you are hosting, you will get this little 4 square box at the bottom that says breakout rooms, and you would be able to do that. You're not going to be able to do that today.
Okay. Okay.
Unless I host you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I guess somewhere in the beginning, I don't know if you explained what we have to click on to be a host.
So you want to, if you're the person who owns the account, you're automatically host. If you are borrowing the account from somebody else, they can give you a host code. And when you log in, there's a little button on the right that says claim host.
Oh, okay.
And you click that, enter the number for the host code, and automatically you are the host.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so those are kind of the features of Zoom. I want to stop right here and see if there are any questions about those features of Zoom that I've gone over. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions? Curious about anything that you saw? Okay. Silent. Good. All right, so we get that piece. This is good. So I'm going to go on now to the structure of our actual Zoom meetings then. So before you have your Zoom party, these are the things you want to make sure people know in advance, especially for phone banking. So they will need a computer and a phone. So as we learned in the ThruTalk training, you need your computer to be able to get on the back end and be able to do the phone script and have that in front of you. And you need to have your cell phone to be able to make the calls, or a home phone to be able to make the calls, preferably with earbuds or headsets. So you want to make sure everybody knows that's the equipment they need. If they are going to do text banking, you want to give them that outvote code in advance just to make sure they are signed up for that campaign. And you want to give them the link to the scripts in advance so that they can look over them, so they can understand them. Wait. I just automatically clicked that person in. Okay. You want to make sure that you've given them the link to the scripts so that they can see them in advance, so they can study them, so they can get familiar with them. You can give them, if you want to, this is the whole folder. You may find it be easier to just send them the actual script you're going to be working with and the decision tree, if we have one for that script. So those two things are the most important things, and they're all in that folder that I have linked here. Yes, no matter what organization you're with. Well, if you're using, yeah, whatever we're doing, anytime we do phone banks, we are using 900156 to do exactly what we've been doing in Outvote. Yes, everybody can use that. And make sure you have a pen and paper handy. We want everybody to have pen and paper handy in case questions come up that they need to ask, or in case they do, like yesterday when we were on our training, there was somebody had a question about, do you want us to call you back? So we might be able to text them back or something with a piece of information that they asked us. So you want to make sure that you have that piece of paper in handy. These are the things you want them to bring with them. Now, party structure is up to you. This is the general structure that I use, but you may have a different way of doing it. And the more you do it, you might choose different ways to do it. So my party structure is everybody comes in, you're welcoming everybody. Hi, welcome to the party. Glad to see you here. And you do a quick introduction of this is what we're doing today. Here's the information you need. And off they go and do their thing. And then during the party, while people are text banking or phone banking, while they're text banking, you and your co-host stay on Zoom. You don't text bank or phone bank. You don't do any of the phone banking. You are there available in the party room for people to come back to and talk to and have conversations with. So part of this is having conversations. So allow those conversations to happen. If people are like, oh, this was really cool and I really like this part of it, people are going to share with you the fun things that they're running into and the challenges that they're running into. Well, I had this tech problem, or I had that tech problem, or I didn't know how to answer this question. How would you answer that? They're going to come in and out of the room. You might have 4 or 5 people in the room and want to answer or ask questions. If other people have answers, let them answer. Have a conversation. It's a conversational thing more than it is this is exactly what we're going to do. This is a time for people to connect, to ask questions, to get what they need, and then go back to their calling. While they're calling, their Zoom is muted. So they click mute on their microphone on Zoom. And then when they want to come back, and they might have their camera disallowed too. So some people might turn off their camera. So you can tell them, turn off your camera, turn off your mic, and go from there. The host, so depending on the size of your group, you may have breakout rooms. I would start in the main room and only use the breakout room if you absolutely have to. You would need somebody to be in that breakout room to manage the people who are in there, ask questions, and communicate with them. So ideally, you have a small enough group, or you have enough people to go into breakout rooms to help. Those are the 2 ways you want to plan it. So if you're planning for a lot of people, I would definitely do breakout rooms and have one person for each breakout room. So that way they are the person basically at the party, hosting the party in each breakout room, and their people come back to that person if they have questions, if they need to talk or whatever, they come back to that person in the breakout room. Otherwise, they are muted and they may turn their video off during the time that they're calling. And then at the end,
in the Zoom room, won't we be hearing a lot of conversation? Won't that get confusing?
see, that's the thing. That's what you have to decide as the host, is how many people do you want in there. So if you have too many people, you might, but the thing is what's going to happen is everybody's muted and some may have their video off. So they're only going to come back in if there's questions or something they want to talk about specifically.
Okay.
So they're not actually going to be talking to you unless they specifically come back to Zoom and shift back to that.
Okay.
But I can imagine that they're muted, they're on a call, so you're not hearing them, but if somebody else has a question, they'll hear that question while they're in the middle of a call. Am I right?
No, because they're going to be on their phone with their earbuds.
Oh, okay. Okay. Makes sense.
Okay. And they can turn the sound down on their computer. So you
Okay.
can help them in the beginning, turn your sound down, mute your phone or mute your Zoom, turn off your video if you want, come back as you need to, turn back up your sound, unmute your mic, and go from there. When you're on Zoom, you cannot use your computer to also make the calls. You have to make the calls through the phone separately, because then you will have the sound from the Zoom room in your earphones at that time. That's why you have to have a separate phone if you're going to do a Zoom party. Now, if you're doing text banking, you know, they can choose how they want to do that as well. I have my headphones in. I would take my headphones off to go make phone calls on my phone and then put my headphones for my computer back on. I'd be switching between them. Some people may not. They can mute their own computer to turn down the sound so they're not hearing what's going on.
So if ThruTalk is downloaded on your computer,
that's what you want.
Got to get it downloaded into your phone so the calls can be made from the phone.
No, because what you do is when you start ThruTalk at the beginning, you tell it whether you want your calls on the computer or a phone.
Oh, okay.
You uncheck the computer box and then it goes to your phone and that gives you a code and you dial that into your phone.
Okay.
So we want everybody on their phones for a Zoom party for that reason.
Okay.
That's why you tell them to bring their cell phone with them so that you can do that.
Okay.
So you can structure it however you want. I do intros and a party and everybody goes off and does their thing and then comes back. And then we check out at the end. Some people may want to do like a midway check-in. So if you're doing like a couple hours and you want to have like after the first 45 minutes, we all come back and we check in. You just tell people in advance when you want them to come back to the Zoom room and check in. And then they check in and you can find out how things are going. You might check in multiple times depending on how long your party is. I would not recommend going more than a couple hours. 2 hours can be a lot for people. Today we're doing very quickly. This is a very quick, like in an hour, I do them quick. In an hour, you come in, you get started, 30 minutes. At the end of the 30 minutes, we all come back, we check out, we're done. But an hour and a half can be a really good, I think that's the sweet spot, is that we are, with 90 minutes, you have time to check in. You have about 45 minutes to an hour. You have an hour or so actually to have the party. You could do a check-in halfway through at half an hour and then do another check-in at the end. And check-ins are really, hey, how's it going? Did you have anything interesting happen? Do you have any questions? It's something, you know, do you want to share something really cool that happened? Ask questions, get people talking, have them share out their experiences at the check-in. And then they can go back into it and you're like, all right, another half an hour, let's go back and I'll see you at the end. And that's how you can do that. I think 90 minutes is a really good time frame because that gives you, you're not doing so much that you're constantly doing. A lot of people only like to do it for like an hour. So it gives you that time to do it. And if you find that you're running these and people want to go longer, then go longer. Again, it's up to you. See how your people do, how they respond. and customize it to yourself. Can hear each other over Zoom. Yeah, Karen, so they can hear each other over Zoom, but if they turn down the volume on their computer, they will not hear that. So, if you're making calls, you're going to hear the calls. Yes, you want to be in a good space in your home where you can do this. I think everybody needs to be in a space where they're willing to do this. I think most people are aware, but not a bad idea to put into your announcement about it. You know, be in a space where you can be making calls and making noise and it's okay. And nobody's going to break into the middle of the room while you're on the call talking to somebody. Always a good plan to add that in. I might add that into the checklist too. So thank you for that. Did that answer your question, Karen? I hope so. You'll need to unmute. You're muted if you're trying to talk. I can't see you, so I don't know. Okay, and then at the end, you're going to do a checkout. And the end checkout is really crucial. So we want to make sure that everybody had a good time. Ask for how can we improve this for next time. You want to see what people got at the end. What were the cool things that happened? What did you think was the best part about it? What would you want to do next time? And really take that time to listen to what the feedback is so you can make your party better next time. Also, checking out is really good just so that everybody gets a chance to come back in and see that there was success. So when you come back in and you go, so how many people did you talk to? How many people did you actually do registrations for? Is crucial also, so you have those numbers. So I use the chat again for these things. So did you do registrations? How many registrations did you do? Did you do voter registration checks? How many voter registration checks did you do? Put it in the chat so we can all see what everybody's been doing. And then the chat gets really busy, which is really exciting because everybody's like, whoa, look at those numbers. And it also helps you, again, you have that data for later. Also give them the option to check out via email if they couldn't get to you that day. Put your email in there. You can always send this information to me tomorrow. These are the things that we want to tell them at the beginning of the call. They need to be tallying these three things. And this is what they're going to report at the check-in. Tally up voter registration checks, tally up any voter registrations they walk people through, tally up any absentee ballot requests they walked through as well. So those are the three things that you need them to be tallying up. Again, that's why they need paper and pencil, because we want them to write that down. Every time they do, put a little check mark next to registration checks, put a little tally mark next to registrations, put a note tally mark next to absentee ballots. So in your instructions at the beginning of your call, you're tallying, and I'm going to add this to this later, but you're also asking them to mute their Zoom. They can stop their video if they want and turn down their Zoom volume so that they can go ahead and do their thing. Some things to expect in the middle of the party. You will need somebody who can help with the technology. So somebody who knows Outvote, or somebody who knows how to do the phone calls, and somebody who knows what registration forms look like and can walk somebody through the harder questions about registration. So you want somebody in that Zoom room with you, your co-host or you, or both, who have those answers, who can help with, well, I couldn't get into ThruTalk today. ThruTalk, where do I go? What's the link? Where do I go to? Help them with that. How do I get the phone calls to come to my phone? You're gonna need to answer those questions. So have somebody, and that's why I recommend a co-host. If you don't know these things, have a co-host to answer those questions. You're also gonna need to be able to, again, answer questions about how to go through registration. So I have some forms that can help you with FAQs, which I'll include. We have like a form that shows you the absentee or the registration form and typical places where people, don't understand things. So I can send that to you so you have it. But if you know people, there's a lot of people around who've done registration a gazillion times over and know how to answer the questions that come back and can help with that. And I'm sure many of you have also done a lot of work with voter registration and answered a lot of questions and can do that as well. So you can also expect startup. Some people may come in fresh, like they've never done it before. Even though we ask them, we can ask them before they come, please be familiar with ThruTalk. Please have done one of the trainings with OOC, so with Prentice, so that you know what you're doing beforehand. Inevitably, some people are going to show up that haven't done that. So you're going to need to get them started. You're going to need to have the link for them and be able to walk them through. We do have a ThruTalk guide that might be helpful, which I will also include in my notes today. And I'm going to make a note of that now so I don't forget it. So you can actually share that with them if you need to as well. And you're also going to need to provide support on having conversations. So as we saw yesterday in the ThruTalk training with Prentice, there were a lot of questions about, well, what if they get stumped here? Or what if they get stumped there? Somebody needs to be available to answer those questions. Also, know your limits. So be clear at the beginning of the call. These are the things we cannot help with, or these are the things we can help with. If you've got other questions, we may not be able to help you. We will try to get answers, but we can't promise. We'll do the best that we can. If you have questions that you want us to get answers to later, write those down on your piece of paper, and we'll see what we can do to get those later. But this is where our limits are. We know about ThruTalk. We know about registration. We know we are not, or we know a little bit about ThruTalk. And if you haven't been through the training, we might not be able to help you because we aren't 100% sure on all the troubleshooting challenges that can happen with that. So this is great to let people know what your limits are. Make sure you are upfront about that at the very beginning. And during the party, these are things you need to do. So you need to notice how many people attended. So I would say at the height of the party, when you've got everybody there, you want to look and see how many people are there. At the top of your screen, above participants, it will tell you. Yeah, so it'll tell you how many people are on the call. So you want to track that number. And then you want to make sure that they get their tallies reported to you so that you can report that in, either through chat or email. Collect those tallies. So important. And you want to make sure you have the chat. If you are borrowing somebody else's Zoom, you are going to need to save the chat yourself. If it's your Zoom and you've set it up to automatically save chat, and sometimes you might want to do this anyway, just as a backup, you need to save the chat. So the way you save the chat is if right now you take a look at your chat box, click chat on the bottom if it's not open, go to your chat box, and at the bottom it says to, and then there's a little file thingy, and there's 3 little itty bitty dots that you can almost not see at the bottom of that chat box above where you would type. So the 3 little itty bitty dots, you click those, and at the top it says save chat. And that'll allow you to save the entire chat for the day once you're done. I wait till everybody's logged out, and then I click the 3 little dots and save chat. And that'll give you all the data that you've asked for. Names, organizations, and all their tallies at the end.
Where does it save it?
So it'll save it in your computer. On Windows, it saves it in Documents, Zoom. So it saves it right in a Zoom file. On Mac, I'm not sure where it saves it, but if you search your files for Zoom, it should pop up with a file that's Zoom, and it should be right in there. And it's under by date, so you can look by date and all the files will be there.
Same thing on my Mac for what that's
Great.
worth. Documents and then a separate Zoom folder.
There you go. Click on that, look for the date, and then it'll have your downloaded file for you. And then once you have gotten your numbers and you saved your chat, then you'll need to go and fill out the event report. So this tells us, this reports back to us how your numbers were for the event. So coming back to us, I'm gonna pull this up for you so you can see what it looks like. So you'll put in the information that is here, and this is why I asked you to collect certain things. So the date of the event, the time range that was contacted, so the time range of your party, your organization that you are with that hosted this party, the location, Zoom. Easy peasy. You can put your event name in there, what you called your party. And counties, so we aren't really going to have that for Zoom parties because it could be anywhere in Ohio, unless we've actually done something specific. You're not going to have the counties of attendees unless you ask specifically for that. We don't, I feel like on Zoom, that's not, because they're going to be from all over. You could have people from all over. If you're all from the same county, put in the county. If everybody in your event is from, let's say I'm near Montgomery County. So if everybody's from Montgomery County, great. First and last
Actually,
name.
that's the county of the people that were registering.
Oh, it says attendees. So
Yes, I know.
Okay, that's why I'm confused. All right, so
It's people we're registering, which we will not know unless we do get some specific county lists. And I'm working on asking Prentice how we might do that.
okay.
But
So yeah, we're not going to know for Zoom
Right.
what county they're in or any of that.
If you're doing drive-through, you know where they're coming from.
Right.
Hamilton County, Montgomery County, etc., or 2 or 3 counties.
I mean, I guess we could add that into the tally, what counties we worked with, but I feel like since this is a virtual event, I'm not really.
We won't know.
Okay.
That's okay.
So then first name and last name of the host for the party, and then your mobile number, email, and your zip code, and then the number of attendees, which you took down, the number of registration forms, which you have from the tallies. We do not have reminder cards filled out. However, we could be tracking we might be asking them about if they're pledging to vote. So if they're pledging to vote, that's another tally to ask for, and I'll add that to my tally.
That's the reminder cards, is the pledge card. Yeah.
Pledge to vote. So if we ask them to pledge to vote in our script, then we tally how many pledged to vote. And then the absentee ballot request forms. So if we have to walk them through, we tally those. And then any time we check their registration, again, we tally those and put those in there. And then you submit the form, and we have all the information we need from your event at that point. So again, that data is hugely important because we track that and report that, and they give us money to be able to do all this stuff. So those people want to have numbers to be able to report back in order to satisfy the grants. So we would appreciate you filling that out for that reason. And it's also good. So I know some of you are also going to have to do the same thing and report back to your organizations as well. So you have that information in your chat, you know what it is, and you can report that back.
Right. And if you'd wind up doing any in-person things, an event at a library, a grocery store, a drive-through, we're going to ask for the same kind of report.
Yep.
Yeah. I know. That's the pain and part of this.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yep. So.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
People from my organization, I mean, we haven't started. We may do events. We may do the Zoom party like this, but they may do some on their own. So I'm assuming then you just need them to, keep track of all that same information and send it to me. and then I
Yeah.
would go in. But if it's not at a specific event,
So do what you can to track as much as you possibly can, and
Mhm.
ask them to report back by email if you possibly can at all. But I mean, specifically, we're talking about parties here, so this is how we're tracking the parties.
Yeah. And sometimes we do it by days. I have people that are making phone calls that are not in a party, and they're reporting back by the day or the and time that they did that from home.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
So you can have them do that too.
Makes
All right,
sense.
so that's the main presentation that I wanted to get out to you. So I'm going to actually stop the recording now. And then if you guys have questions, you can ask those questions. And then the recording will be available for others and for you later, because I'll send you a link to that.